Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has landed in New Delhi and will be meeting his Indian counterpart S. Jaishankar and NSA Ajit Doval tomorrow as per reports. Discussions about the way forward on the LAC issue, the war in Ukraine and the BRICS process are likely to be some of the key issues on the agenda. Now remember, this marks the first such visit by a high-level Chinese official since the deadly Galwan border disputes in 2020. Vishnu Prakash, former ambassador to Canada and South Korea, is joining us on the show. I'm also speaking with Sushant, Sareen, Strategic Affairs Analyst and Senior Fellow at ORF. Welcome to both of you and thank you so much for speaking with us. Ambassador Prakash, our position so far vis-a-vis China has been that let's go back to status quo, let's de-escalate and disengage on the LAC, and then the rest of the talks will follow. What we are seeing with this current visit of the Chinese foreign minister, is it a departure from the stated position?
Certainly there is no departure on our part. There has been consistent position on our side that status quo ante should be restored. At the same time, we have been talking. This is an article of faith with us to arrive at a negotiated settlement. So whether there are 15 rounds of talks, mill-to-mill talks, or at different formats, or the virtual meetings between the foreign ministers and the NSA, we have been talking. And the sudden visit of Wang Yi is interesting. I would think it's more tactical than strategic because China is feeling the heat of outrightly supporting Russia. And under these circumstances, to see whether they can find a common ground with India would be the primary motive. I do not see them relenting in a hurry. Hearing the report that you had just played, I think what China would normally do is to come up with a litany of complaints and try to push their agenda. We have our own. But we should give them patient hearing and let us see whether between India and China we can find some kind of a common ground on the LAC issue.
So we're talking about two very key issues. One is the LAC issue. One is the context of the current geopolitical conflict. Sushant, in your view, what will dominate and will we really get much out of it as far as we are concerned? We want China to push back and step back on the LAC issue. How do we get that to happen?
I think we might have made more progress if we had asked Mr. Wang Yi not to stop in Delhi. And the reason, to my mind, that he's stopping in Delhi is because they just want to smoothen the path, because there is this BRICS meeting which is supposed to be held later this year. And last time during the Doklam standoff, also the Chinese suddenly became reasonableness personified at the time of the BRICS meeting. And they're playing the same game again, and we are falling for the same game again. After what he said in Islamabad yesterday, I think we've had a rather mealy-mouthed response. And frankly speaking, all these things which we are talking about will be on the agenda. I don't see how it gets, how we move forward from where we already are. Because let's face it, that along the borders, the Chinese have been doubling down. They've been actually building permanent structures. They've been building permanent structures to a point where they're trying to permanently alter the alignment of the line of actual control. And forget about, disengagement and, withdrawing of troops and all of that. None of this stuff is happening. And at every stage, the Chinese are using it as a leverage to get something out of us. And we are giving it to them because even today, from the kind of breathless take which the media is having, that this is a very important, crucial meeting. I would be extremely surprised if anything at all was to come out of it, except the fact that there is some now talk that once again the informal talk between Mr. Modi and Xi Jinping will happen again, and that India will again go for the BRICS summit. Frankly, what does the BRICS bring to the table anymore? As far as this whole economic relationship is concerned, it is...
Sushant, in our defense, not all of us are breathless in covering this, but I think it does merit the question which we're trying to answer. Number one, should we be meeting them if they haven't pushed back or stepped back on the LAC issue? Two, do we want to be put in the same team as China vis-a-vis the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So let me come to you on the second part. Yeah.
Just very quickly, I have nothing against meeting people. My problem is that when you meet people in this kind of a situation where just yesterday, the guy makes the most obnoxious statement on India's position on Kashmir. And what do you say? Then look, you also have problems. Don't make us open our mouth. We should have opened our mouth. We should question whether Tibet is a part of China or not. We should say that we don't think Taiwan is a part of China. But we are scared because the Chinese might do something to us. So, we've left this threat hanging, which nobody takes seriously. So why are we doing this? And the least we could have done is that suddenly said that Mr. Jaishankar has got a Delhi belly, so he's indisposed. And Mr. Doval has some certain emergency, so he's also not available. So it might be good if Mr. Wang Yi can make himself available at some other time. Why could we not say this much also? If Mr. Wang Yi could have spent the night in bed with the Taliban, where he is right now. Why do we have to get him to Delhi?
Okay.
Or he could have to Islamabad.
So Sushant is essentially, in his usual inimitable style, pushing for a tougher line. Ambassador Prakash, let me come to the second part. So, we have no truck with them or no solution in sight on the LAC issue. We still want them pushed back. The kind of disengagement we want has not taken place. And now we have this Ukraine-Russia conflict sort of backdrop. Let me bring to you the question I was asking earlier. Do we want to be perceived by the rest of the world as being in the same team as Russia and China right now? I mean, we've managed to walk a very, very fine line where we're not outright supporting Russia, but we're not condemning them each other. It's been described as quote-unquote shaky. Will this trip have the warning or the fear of us being clubbed in that same group?
Tamanna, not at all. But before I respond to that, let me just talk about the refreshing candor with which my good friend speaks. Thank God he is not the External Affairs Minister or the National Security Advisor. Now, yes, we have not yet achieved the objectives, but haven't we had 15 rounds of talks? There has been disengagement in Pangong So, there has been disengagement in Gogra. Without talks, could we have had that? Secondly, Wang Yi wants to come. I don't think we are babe in the woods or naive to say, Mr. Wang Yi, come, because you are coming, we'll give you whatever you want. What purpose would it serve by snubbing him? It will only harden positions. He comes here, you talk. The name of the game is, I do not know any other way to proceed further in solving this knot that we are in. So that is point one. Secondly, I don't think that we are in the same boat as the Chinese. Chinese are an ally of Russia. They are supporting Russia in the UN Security Council. India has taken an independent stance. We are not neutral. We have not condemned openly the Russian aggression, but we have essentially said that, when we say that the human rights should be respected, that international law should be respected, territorial integrity should be respected. I think we are saying it all, and also our position is evolving. So we have different stakes, we have different concerns, we have different challenges. So we are certainly not in the same boat as the Chinese, and we have no interest to be in the same boat. They have a different relationship. In fact, our concern is very different, of Russia becoming a junior partner of China and towing the Chinese line. So that is our concern. Tamanna.
Okay, let Sushant come in on that part. So India's position on Russia right now seems to align more with China's than NATO countries or the United States, etc. Does China's representation here and this visit underline that situation?
No, I don't think so. And I don't think our position aligns with the Chinese position. In fact, just today, Tamanna, we have abstained on the Russian resolution. And this time, we are on the same side as the Americans, who have also abstained along with 13 other countries. And only the Chinese and the Russians backed the Russian resolution. So I don't think we have our own position, because we have our own compulsions as far as the Russians is concerned. And as Ambassador Prakash very correctly said, We are walking that tightrope. But I suspect that that middle space that we have been occupying so far is getting constricted as we go forward. And sooner rather than later, we will have to start weighing our options again, whether this whole thing of our dependence on the Russians is going to be worth it. There are going to be huge problems as far as going with the Americans is concerned, because they are also extremely unreliable. But not that the Russians are going to be extremely reliable if they're going to be in the Chinese embrace. So which is why we are in a big mess. Because, for all this talk about Atmanirbharta, the fact of the matter is we are today importing even more from the Chinese than what we were before we mouthed this slogan. How does that work? And we really need to start getting real, although a lot has happened, with the PLI schemes and some of the other stuff which is being done, but we need to do it much, much, much faster. Because otherwise, just banning apps without the other aspects of trade with China, getting a handle on that, how are you going to move forward? So that is one. The other one is on the Russians and the weapon systems which we are importing from them. I think we will have serious problems going forward. And I think we really need to start reviewing both the quality of the Russian weaponry, because I think that has now been called into question. We need to start reviewing our defense postures, which is based on Russian weaponry. And we need to start thinking of a time when we might have to start, where the reliability of supply in the event of a conflict with China will be existent if it's coming from Russia, because the Russians would be far more beholden to the Chinese than they are to us. What is the guarantee that the Russians will keep supplying us the necessary spares and in time in the event a powwow with the Chinese? I don't think we can say that with any degree of certainty in the current situation. So I think we need to really start evaluating our position. And finally, Tamanna, Dante comes to mind, that the worst place in hell is reserved for those who in moments of grave moral crisis adopt a position of neutrality.
That's quite a change in position, because I've been speaking with you, Sushant, about this for a few weeks. That tipping point has arrived, Ambassador Prakash. We need to pick a side.
But I've been telling you that for now, have that space, but that space is going to get constricted as we go forward.
Yeah, that fence we've been sitting on is narrowing further. We need to pick a side now, Ambassador Prakash.
No, I would beg to disagree that we are a fence sitter. I don't see that. But having said that, let us accept that the combined weight or punch of the West is formidable. I don't think that Russia expected the West to come together like this. And given the fact that they control practically everything from finances to media to whether it's information warfare, whether it's weaponry and so on, I half suspect that for the Chinese also to continue supporting Russia the way they are may prove to be difficult. But let's not forget that China has a lot of skin in the game. And just as Mr. Putin underestimated the severity of the Western reaction, I would half suspect that China may also have to reconsider their position. For us, yes, we have to now try and see what we can do, because more and more, I think it will be difficult to do business with Russia. And we will perhaps be better off, although West is prescriptive, is sanctimonious, to look at the side which is likely to call the shots in future. And that happens to be the Western world. It may not be the formidable unipolar world that it is, but still it is a formidable power. And I guess we will do well to see that our future is aligned more closely with the West than with Russia at the moment.
Right. So tough times ahead, tricky times ahead, and continuing fine balancing act. But before that, this pretty interesting and important visit by the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi to New Delhi. We'll see what comes out of it. Thank you so much, Sushant, Sareen, and Ambassador Prakash for joining us on the show today.
Pleasure.